So we have our first quarterfinal here between Ben Nikolich and Dylan Donegan, both here part of teams as well. These are not the right players. There we go.
It's much better. I was going to say, I don't know when one of these guys found a time to put a bow tie on, but here we are. This looks better.
Benjamin Nikolich, number 3 right now on our leaderboard, representing Team MTG Sigil. His opponent, Dylan Donegan, 8th on the leaderboard, Team Lotus Box. Both of them have been doing very well on the tour recently.
Real clash of the titans here. Both players, plenty of chops in the modern format. Both players have won an Open within the last calendar year, though Nikolich winning in Modern. Donegan's most recent Open win would have been in Standard.
All right, round starting here. Ben Nikolich starts off with a Fetch Shock into a Serum Visions. We are underway. So in this matchup, one thing I'd look at in a control matchup like this is I want to talk about going late. If we get to the point where both players have 6 lands and, you know, we get to turn 10, I would think Ben Nikolich is favored. Is that right?
By a lot. Yeah, Donegan's trying to get on the battlefield very quickly, close the game before Nikolich can really get set up.
Well, speaking of setup, Nikolich only has 2 lands, 1 in hand, 1 in play. His other cards are Logic Knot, Lightning Bolt, and we'll figure out what the other ones are. Dylan can see them here.
Yeah, he did some scrying with Serum Visions. That does help you find your 3rd land. Looks like Snapcaster Mage, Supreme Verdict, Cryptic Command all available. Supreme Verdict is actually one of the better cards in the format, in the matchup rather. Death Shadow, you know, you can cast your Death Shadow to your Mega Anglers, protect them with Stubborn Denial, but you can't beat Supreme Verdict with counter magic. And Logic Knot is going to be the hit here.
Yeah, so with taking that card, I suppose Logic Knot's pretty live already. I think maybe Dylan's protecting something like a single threat hand.
Right, yeah, it's a clean answer to 1 threat.
Sure.
Counter on the way down.
On Ben's side, plays that Spire Bluff Canal. And just passing back, he has at least 2 cards that cost 4 mana, so he just needs to ensure he hits those land drops.
And it looks like Donegan's on a rather land-heavy hand, and this is something you don't always see. He just plays a second land, this Watery Grave tapped. He knows he's going to have to go long. He doesn't want to just get lightning bolted out of the game randomly. Yeah,
and that's interesting indeed. You see Ben does not have the 4th land, so he's actually going to take an opportunity here, now that Dylan doesn't have a threat, to tap down. He'll play Snapcaster on Serum Visions to set up his draws. Hits Field of Ruin, so he has land 4, and now he has 2 non-land spells, deciding how he wants to scry them.
And with Donegan knowing about Cryptic Command, with Donegan taking the Logic Knot, makes sense to tap low there. Donegan's not going to respect a counterspell on 3 mana.
Donegan does Fatal Push away the Snapcaster Mage, and he makes a Snapcaster play of his own. He'll go ahead and recast that Thoughtseize. Looks at Ben's hand, sees Field of Ruin, Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt, so good spot removal, and then the 4s, Cryptic Command and Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. Ends up taking Cryptic Command. The Supreme Verdict's maybe the scariest card, though Donegan has not assembled any of his black threats here. No Gurmag Angler, no Death Shadow. Supreme Verdict does not line up great against Snapcaster Mage, so if that's all he's on, then getting rid of the Cryptic Command makes sense. Even if he has a Stubborn Denial, you can't always counter that with just Snapcaster Mage.
4th land from Ben, and he'll pass. Now, Ryan, over on our backup table, we have a very quick game 1. Ethan Dunn, kind of you predicted on Elves, already has taken the game 1 over Brennan DeCandio.
And Donegan's played Island Swamp. This Field of Ruin, that just gets to destroy lands now. And
Grixis Shadow's a well-known quantity to the point where Ben knows this.
Yeah, he's going for that Watery Grave right away here.
Absolutely.
That gets Nikolich a land. It does not get Donegan anything.
Field of Ruin just really showing already how strong of a card this is.
Yeah, Ghost Quarter, before the printing of Field of Ruin, was already pretty powerful against Death Shadow, and Field of Ruin's just that much better.
Go back, and right now, we saw some of this with Brennan DeCandio when he's playing Jim Davis in the win-and-ins. The Grixis Shadow deck sometimes can fail to produce threats, and when it does, it looks pretty bad.
Yes. Yeah, not very many cards in graveyard. Still at 16, that's 3 points above 13, and 13, 1, 2 high to make a shadow anyway.
Yeah, remember that. So that 1 land is gone, the Watery Grave. Keep in mind there's only 6 mana-producing lands in a Grixis deck.
Yeah. And he has at least 1 more land in hand from here as well. Nikolich does only play the 1 Field of Ruin.
So Thoughtseize from Dylan will be met by Cryptic Command from Ben. It's a counter and draw. He draws into another path to exile. So right now, the board is clean. That favors Nikolich, but Nikolich does not have any card advantage. He actually just has removal.
He does have the virtue of having a really nice hand.
Yeah, it's a lot of removal.
A lot of clean answers to large creatures, and the path to exiles, those are so good because the basics are already out of Donegan's deck.
Yeah, they are just clean answers. You're right.
I believe he also has a Snapcaster Mage, which is card advantage.
And Dylan going to have to produce some extra threats. Gets creative with it. Here's a hard cast Street Wraith.
That's not a good one. That's never what you want to be doing.
Well, it does force the Snapcaster. Logic Knot from Ben Nikolich counters it. I mean, it is a threat, and normally when you count threats in Death's Shadow, I don't count the Street Wraiths.
Right, yeah, typically that's not going to be winning games even when you do cast it.
But of note, these 5 lands in play from Dylan, these are all his mana producing lands in the deck, meaning every fetch land from here on out is a dead card.
And Nikolich did draw a replacement Snapcaster Mage as well.
And that's big. His graveyard has a lot of nice cards in it.
Yeah, pretty trivial to close the game from here. Another Lightning Bolt in hand.
Yeah, he does have Dylan down to 11. Oh, correct. That will make it 8. He missed a fetch shock there, so Snapcaster Mage from Ben. On Lightning Bolt, all right.
Yeah, he's just going to close this one quickly.
Dismember from Dylan, paying double black.
A lot of plays you don't usually see from the Death Shadow deck happening here, and Dylan's pretty desperate.
Yeah, shoots him down to 5, hits him, helixes him down to 0. Ben Nikolich turns the corner so easily there. Just removal spells into removal and then caps it off with some burn.
Yeah, the Shadow deck is really powerful, but that's kind of what I was alluding to before the match, is sometimes Nikolich can just walk into a win.
Yeah, it at some point it felt like Nikolich was playing defense, and then we look at the game and realize that the game's over.
Yes.
Never felt like he had to change plans. Players will get out their sideboards here. We're going to look at some of the sideboarding they're doing too. So Dylan Donegan and Ben Nikolich both get deck lists on the table, so they are going to get to sideboard while looking at their opponent's list. We'll be back with an analysis of that after a word from our sponsor. We're back here, Dylan Donegan and Ben Nikolich getting ready to sideboard. In the meantime, their half of the bracket took a very fast match. The number 1 seed, James Manges, playing Eldrazi was a clean 2-0 winner over Lance Schultz. So blue-white control falls. It means the winner of this is going to be playing against Eldrazi next round. I can't imagine that's good news for either of these players.
It's certainly not on the draw.
Yeah, James is the 1 seed who'll be on the play every round. He's still in the tournament.
Yep.
So looking at the sideboards, though, Dylan Donegan is down 1. He's going to be on the play here. There's, I think, some temptation to get bigger in his deck if he can, though he'll never really be the control deck here. He's got 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Liliana of the Veil, 2 Young Pyromancer, and then a lot of counter magic. Disdainful Stroke, Deprive, some discard with Collective Brutality. He has a Lightning Bolt, the 4th Stubborn Denial, Pyroclasm, Kozilek's Return, Kolaghan's Command, and a Liliana, the Last Hope.
So the Kolaghan's Command and the Liliana, the Last Hope, to kind of facilitate the Snapcaster Mage engine. That stuff's really good in a grindy mirror. Stubborn Denial to fight counter wars, that's really powerful. You usually see Collective Brutality come in as another way to duress away Supreme Verdict. That can be pretty impactful. Generally like Deprive in matchups like this. And sometimes I think you'll see players generally when they have Young Pyromancer bringing it in grindy matchups such as this one. Disdainful Stroke's a little bit dicey. It has its spots. You do want to counter Cryptic Command. You do want to counter, say, Elspeth Sun's Champion. It's a little more situation than other things, so I don't know if you necessarily want that one. Liliana of the Veil is fine. You can grind down the opponent's hand, and that one does have some play here.
Do you like Liliana the Last Hope as well? It is still a Planeswalker.
I like that one a lot. That's the one I'm for sure bringing in.
Okay. Now on Ben Nikolich's side, he's got Dispel, 3 Dispels. There will be instants here to counter. 2 Ruined Halos, 2 Vendilion Click, a Wear and Tear, a Celestial Purge, Detention Sphere, Engineered Explosives, another Supreme Verdict, and is it Staticaster, a Negate, and an Elspeth Sun's Champion.
So the big things you're going to grab, but just stuff that cleanly answers the large creature from Donegan's. Your Ruined Halo, your Celestial Purge, your Detention Sphere, your Engineered Explosives, your Supreme Verdict, and the Elspeth Sun's Champion. That stuff's all great. You can reach for Dispel, definitely not all 3.
So it interesting. What you're saying is that Ben's the sideboard package you're suggesting is the kind of thing Ben does against a straight creatures deck. You know, it would be the same thing he would do against, say, elves.
Right.
And is that really how he wants to approach the matchup? Because Dylan's a blue deck, so when you play a blue matchup, you know, board into spells, you try to get a little more on the stack, but it sounds like you want to be a board control deck on Ben's spot.
If your opponent's build is really heavy on Kolaghan's Command, you put more weight on having Dispel. The thing is, Dispel doesn't interact with any of the creatures, doesn't interact with the Planeswalkers that are coming in, so you want to be able to make sure your cards actually play. If you have drawn Dispel and you have a low number of removal spells or only 1, and Dylan just thought seizes away your removal spell and then plays a threat into your Dispel, he's just going to win that game.
All right, look at Nikolich keeping on 6, but scrying to the top. And so we have game number 2. Let's start off. Donegan on the play. Going to start off with an Inquisition of Kozilek, sending himself down to 19. Let's see what it is that Nikolich kept. Looks like we have
two Logic Knots.
Different Logic Knots, but they are 2 Logic Knots. 2 Logic Knots, an Electrolyze, and 3 lands. That is a hand that Dylan can definitely beat.
Fine hand to keep on 6, but yeah, really slow. That Electrolyze not really going to be removing creatures. And one of the Logic Knots is going to go. That makes sense.
So with Electrolyze not able to hit creatures outside of Snapcaster Mage, Ben is really just keeping it in, you think, as a burn spell?
It's a burn spell, and it's your most important card if Dylan starts casting Planeswalkers and they resolve. Electrolyze can cut down Planeswalkers really effectively and combine with Snapcaster Mage very well in that role. Donegan's going to cycle a Street Wraith, so he's taking a little bit more damage here. As we're back to Donegan's turn. Looks like he has a Thought Scour in hand, a couple fetch lands at the ready as well.
And it looks like, so cycle, a fetch, Donegan down to 14, maybe even down to 12, depending on how he wants to fetch this. Stay at 14. Last game, we saw Donegan unable to produce a threat. This game, we're hoping to see something different. Here's a Thought Seize. He'll go to 12 that way. See the hand again. Looks like Supreme Verdict was picked up. But he'll take the other Logic Knot as well.
Yeah, if there's another discard spell available or if there's multiple threats, he can certainly beat Supreme Verdict. The Logic Knot just makes it kind of harder for him to play the game.
Ben will just play a second land and pass.
Donegan's getting kind of flooded here.
He is, but he did pick up Liliana of the Veil, and I think that's why he was taking all these logic knots. He's really hoping this sticks.
Yeah.
Because if you're flooded, Liliana's a great way to solve that problem.
Discard this land.
Yeah, and that's going to resolve. So punched a hole by taking 2 logic knots, and then it's going to move the Liliana right through. Supreme Verdict is gone.
So Nikolich does have that Electrolyze still. That's an effective tool in cutting down Liliana. It's going to need some help, though.
Yeah, I believe Dylan's entire hand is lands right now. But if you can keep the Liliana around, that doesn't matter.
Ooh, Nikolich just fetched untapped Hollowed Fountain. I don't know if he's shortcutting, but if he has Lightning Helix, that cleans up Liliana really effectively.
Snapcaster Mage, just as a 2-1, but this will work.
Yeah, that gets in at the Liliana. Then you can just Electrolyze to clean it up.
Yeah, and then he'll be leaving Dylan with a hand just full of lands, which is pretty bad. Liliana down to 2. Electrolyze takes care of the Planeswalker. And remember, Dylan sent himself down to 10 to accomplish this.
Yes. And that was even him playing conservatively. He didn't even shock every time that he could have.
Dylan's draw, Stubborn Denial, and you see just a flip of the land on the table, says go. Nothing more to be done. Snapcaster swings in, puts Dylan down to 8. Nikolich draws Search for Azcanta. This could be quick.
Yeah, this one is quickly going the way of Benjamin Nikolich. Dylan kind of needs to top deck running ferocious threats.
I agree. So there's the search. Dylan down to 8. I think he picked up a land. That's really not going to work. And check that. For the 2nd game in a row, it's Street Wraith. Dylan just pushes it to the side.
He even, found basic island to cast a Street Wraith, so won't get the path in anything. Not that he can really use the mana in the first place.
Yeah. Ben Nikolich can flip that Search for Azcanta if he wants. Thinking on that. He has Dylan down to 7, though, and a virtual 5 from Snapcaster.
If it's a card that he wants to draw, it's kind of worth just drawing it.
Ooh, puts Electrolyze in the bin. That is greedy, but look at what he drew instead. Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, that one's going to close this one.
Yeah, the Gideon will be cast, and Dylan is going to pick up cards and shake the hand. 2-0, a clean win for Ben Nikolich. He moves on to the semifinals.
Yeah, Donegan's hands, they didn't really come together. That matchup generally is going to have a little bit more interplay. Kind of unfortunate, but
wow, yeah.
Top 8, something to sneeze at. Good performance for Donegan anyway. And
so Ben Nikolich moves on to the semifinals where James Manges waits.